Is the Eddie Reed Quality Racing here in the Grade 1 Eddie Reed, and they'll be traveling 1.1 miles for 3-year-olds and upward. Again, that jockey change, as we mentioned, on the one Crowded House. Mike Smith will pick up the mount from Tyler Bays. J. Paul Redham maybe just recovering from Just Imagine not running the way they had hoped, but he brings a horse here to the United States for the first time with some good company lines, who's 10-1 down from a 15-1 morning line. But our favorite at 8-5 currently, the usual QT.
Yeah, he came back from Dubai for a win in an allowance race at Hollywood Park. He looked very good. He was 60 cents on the dollar to 1. Beat Dakota Phone, who's a pretty talented horse in his own rights. But this is by no means one horse race.
No, it certainly isn't. Wide open. Victor's Christ, you go with. I will go with him, Rich. I think he's a horse that likes this course. He's 1-for-1 at Del Mar. He likes the turf, and he's coming off a huge effort last time. And I like the fact he's had plenty of time since that career best 111 Byer, and he could get a good trip just right off the speed here.
And he's got a bullet workout in preparation for this. His last workout, 6 furlongs and 1:13.2 here at Del Mar on the main track.
We're at Del Mar, not too far from downtown San Diego, and we stay downtown Del Mar. This look right on the corner there, Americana Cafe just across the way. Great place for breakfast. We'll be back with a great race, the Eddie Reed, in just a moment. Welcome back to Del Mar. All summer long, TVG on site at one of the most prestigious race meets in America. And here is one of the biggest races in the country today, the Grade 1 Eddie Reed. I'm Todd Schrupp, along with Frank Lyons and Simon Bray. The usual QT, who you're looking at, is our current favorite at 8-5. He made his return from Dubai back on June 27th at Hollywood Park. He was expected to win, and he did. He won by a half length as a heavy favorite over a small field. How good of a return was this?
Well, I think it was a very good return, and I seen him down in the paddock, and like you could see Victor Espinosa, he never really moved on the horse. And James Cassidy was saying that he used to be you know, kind of a little bit, you know, sweaty and stuff in the paddock, and now he's calmed down. He's got more mature, and if you see him here today, he certainly is not washing out or getting excited in any sort of negative way.
No, and Victor Espinosa backed it up, saying because that translated in the afternoons. He used to be more aggressive in his races, and he said after the Dubai World Cup, he came back, he raided off horses there in the backtrack that you saw. He said he worked him here on July 19th, and he rated in that work and didn't have to wrestle him back to get him to relax. So he's a different racehorse than he was in his 3-year-old year.
And if you just want to look at fractions, how well the usual QT finished up, his final quarter mile, 22-3. Now that comes identical to the 2 Victor's Cry. He won the Shoemaker Mile, finishing up the final quarter in 22-3. The difference, he ran a mile in 1:32.4 when winning the Grade 1 Shoemaker Mile.
2 seconds quicker than usual QT's final mile.
And the Shoemaker Mile, I don't need to tell you this, Frank, is a pretty good lead into the Eddie Reed.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And here's a look at Victor's Cry's win, and over a very good horse, Corellian, recently retired.
Yeah, good horse that Rusty Arnold trained that had multiple stakes wins, finishing second, and Mr. Graf, who was undefeated at the time for Ron Ellis, if I'm not mistaken, down the hill.
And Campari was in this race.
Exactly. It was a good field, and Victor's Cry at 21-1 just ran down this field fair and square with Corey Nakatani aboard. He's back aboard again today. He's won this race 5 times, Nakatani, most recently last year, of course, with Global Hunter.
We'll come back with more on the Eddie Reed. Gary Seibel has racing action from Emerald. Call for riders up in the Grade 1 Eddie Reed. Looking at right now the 4 Acclamation, who had some very impressive back-to-back wins this spring. Back in May, he won the Jim Murray going 1.5 miles at Hollywood Park, gate to wire, opened up 10 lengths on the field, and then he came back to win the Charlie Whittingham in gate to wire fashion as well.
Yeah, I wonder, he didn't get the lead in the United Nations, and I don't see much speed in here, so I'm sure he will get the lead, but how fast would he have to go?
And what about the horses that were in behind him in these wins, Simon?
Yeah, Le Breton. I mean, I don't think the pace really helped him. 49, 112, and 2. I think cutting back to a mile and 1/8, maybe a little quicker pace, helped the closing kick of Le Breton. He did had front bandages last time out, and then Hyades is coming out of that race as well, who finished second and kind of sat second the whole way around there. The only horse that really closed in that race was the 5 Le Breton.
There is the last horse in our field of 7, Hyades, headed out for the post parade. The crowd pushing in down around the pack here to get a good view, and then up at the Brigantine. Yeah, that's a great view there just outside the bar. Actually had lunch there today. Had to try their famous fish tacos. Now I had the deep fried one, so I'm gonna have to go back for the swordfish next time.
Right.
But my family had never been with me, my 2 girls and my wife, and so we sat over to the right of there, which is another good view of the races. You see them as they go up the backstretch and then into that final turn. But the great moment is when the grandstand sees the field and the roar comes up from the crowd, and you can hear it. But very good food, very good view.
Hour.
That's right. Yay! The field coming out onto the track for the Grade 1 Eddie Reed. And the usual QT has been our favorite throughout much of the wagering here at 8-5. A reminder of that rider change, the 1 crowded house. Make the rider Mike Smith.
Interesting as well, Todd. This is the first time we've used a shoot here this year at Del Mar. So for some of our newer viewers, that shoot's pretty severe. It's not what we're accustomed to at Hollywood Park, where they come out and it's a very gradual bend to the left. We'll get a shot of that off the post parade. You can see from behind the gate and in front, it's almost a 45-degree left-hand turn, isn't it, Frank?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You can get hung pretty wide, especially going a mile in the 16th.
The post parade for the 37th running of the Grade 1 Eddie Reed is presented by OCD Pellets. To find out how OCD Pellets can help out your operation, visit www.ocdpellets.com. We begin the post parade with Crowded House.
Yeah, Crowded House makes his first start in the U.S. I've seen Brian Meehan here in the paddock, but he's locally owned. He's owned by Paul Redham. He's won 2 of 12 and over 700,000.
Here's Victor's Cry, Corey Nakatani. They teamed up to win the Shoemaker. Nakatani looking for his 6th Eddie Reed here today. And this horse, the running star, fits this turf course and fits the mile and 1/8 trip as well.
The usual QT is the 3 horse. He's a very consistent horse. He's won 7 of 9 on the grass, 7 of 14 overall, and he was a winner last time out.
The 4 Acclamation, he showed pace in longer races. Today he might get challenged up on the front end by the 6 Enrich, so I'd see a different scenario here at 8-1. These might be a tougher Grade 1 than some of the races he's coming out of.
And the 5 is Le Breton. Irish bred, raced in France prior to coming to the US. He's won 2 races from 6 starts since coming to the US. He's 1 for 4 this year.
Here's the 6, your half-brother to Lava Man, and the undefeated Lava Girl, the little girl that ran the other day for Doug O'Neill. 5-1, that's a great price. I think this horse gets a perfect trip. There's no pace. He'll be on the lead. If someone decides to go, he can sit second.
And the longer shot on the board is the 7 Hyades. He was 3rd last time out in the American handicap, beating half a length behind Global Hunter.
The Grade 1 Eddie Reed is just 5 minutes away. 5 minutes to get to tvg.com and play. What a fantastic view. Looking back off the clubhouse turn back towards the top of the stretch. Let's give you a view of the usual QT as he warms up. James Cassidy will send out the usual QT. He's always had a lot of confidence in him. How's he feeling today about his chances? We find out with Christine
Trainer
Olivares.
Jim Cassidy has the usual QT, and today came back off the trip to Dubai rather, with a winning race. Is that what you wanted to see? It looked like obviously a win, but it didn't take too much out of him.
Not at all. In fact, I was very happy the way he came out of the race. It was a perfect scenario so far. I mean, it's worked out. He's very happy. He's training really well. And we got an allowance race to fill. It was marvelous.
How about the pace of this race with Acclamation and Enriched? Will he get a nice trip, maybe sort of leading the second group?
I would think. However, if one of them decides to walk the dog a bit and go a little slow, then we're going to be a little closer. So that's what Victor's going to have to figure out when he leaves there. If the 2 of them get into a speed duel, then so be it. You know, just let them go.
All right, good luck. An impeccable record thus far. See if he improves it. The usual QT for Jim Cassidy.
Well, this is something you were wondering aloud about, Frank, and that is, can Acclamation get away on the lead? What will the usual QT do here in the early stages? Obviously, it's on James Cassidy's mind as well.
Yes, and I guess his plan will be to just lay second to the horse, or maybe third.
Simon, when you look at the one, Crowded House, do you see a horse based on his European form that will adapt to racing here in the United States?
I think so. From races far back, his last two haven't been that good. You know, he's been well beaten.
And see, that's since they added blinkers.
Yes, exactly. I don't know, you know, maybe they want to take him off, but he's got him on again today. The only caveat is that it's a European horse coming into the turf division in the States. And we saw what happened in the United Nations with Chinchon, the race that Acclamation came out of. That was a horse that came from Europe and won. So I think he's a horse that you have to use, or should have used, if you're playing this late pick 4.
Christina is with the trainer of Crowded House. From looking last year, from November to July, gets a win. This year, October to February. So off that huge effort in the Shoemaker Mile, he's got a chance to pull off this double.
Yes, I got beat with Castledale off the Shoemaker win coming into this race. It's a difficult thing to try to pull off.
Aragorn, a good one for Neil Drysdale?
Yeah, exactly. Back in 2006, ridden by Corey Nakatani, and Fastness in 1996. Janine Sohardi and Corey Nakatani rode that one as well.
The 6, Doug O'Neill will try with Enriched. Was off the charts fast the last time out figure-wise, but this is a real class test for him today. But his last 2 turf efforts, just on face value, putting aside company and the rest of it, they would seem to put him in the mix here.
I think so. That's why I chose him. I think he's much better on the turf, period. Like I said, he's had 6 lifetime wins, 5 of them on the grass. And there's nobody hotter at the track right now than trainer Doug O'Neill. He's looking on. Peter Millen sitting behind him, just taking in this race. But Doug's firing on all cylinders here.
Said Enriched is kind of the Dwayne Wade of their barn. Currently 9-2.
They're going to trade him?
He needs 2 other guys to make him look good.
Oh, come on.
Is that what it is?
What about a horse who hasn't won here in the United States, but is always running with, or should he say, he won his first start in the United States, optional 40, since then has not gotten a win, but he's always kind of there with the likes of Enriched and Acclamation.
You know, he looks like he's maybe getting a little better at this stage. He's only a 4-year-old by Aldebaran, but his form in Europe wasn't anything to write home about. I guess you'd maybe give him a long shot look. He is the longest shot on the board.
We finally see the promise from Lou Breton as well. I mean, he's kind of been looking to get there and hasn't delivered the last couple, maybe with some excuses.
Julio Canani, who always says that there's some dark cloud following him everywhere and he's the unluckiest guy on the planet. He will tell you story after story about bad trip after bad trip, and maybe even throwing bad ride with Lou Breton. He just thinks this horse has missed out on a couple of wins because of bad luck or whatever, how you want to view it. So, yeah, it wouldn't be a surprise to him. And as they move into line, Lou Breton will be our second choice at 4-1. The usual QT, a solid favorite at 6-5. TVG proudly presents, in conjunction with the Del Mar Thoroughbred Club, the 37th running of the Grade 1 Eddie Reed.
And away they go to a perfect start. It looks like Acclamation, once the lead, has been ridden along. However, Enriched is even quicker, and Enriched and Acclamation ensure a good early pace here. The usual QT and Lou Breton in the blue color is going to drop back into the 4th position. Just in behind that comes Hyades, who's taken back 3rd last, 6 off the leaders. Victor's Cry down at the rail, and Crowded House, the early trailer. Into the turn they go, and Acclamation now goes on, leads it by a length and a half. Enriched quite content to take back a comfortable 2nd. The usual QT's in a good spot 3rd, gives them 4-length starts. Lou Breton is in 5th. Hyades is on the outside and been followed by Victor's Cry down at the rail. Crowded House's last 7 lengths would cover them all. They move on to the backstretch, and Acclamation got it all his own way out here. He's taken a nice hold too. Acclamation by 2 lengths. In the 2nd spot is Enriched, the usual QT, very comfortable in 3rd. Lou Breton has been 4th throughout. He's now 4 off the leader. Hyades is going to move up on the far side, been followed by Victor's Cry, and Crowded House, 6 lengths would cover them all. A half mile to go in the Eddie Reed. There's no change. Acclamation just over a length. Enriched is tracking 2nd now. The usual QT going for an early run at the rail. Can he get through? Not yet. Lou Breton is right there. Hyades on the far side. Victor's Cry and Crowded House. They come to the top of the lane. They've turned the pressure on. Acclamation taken on by Enriched. These two stride for stride. The usual QT right behind them. Victor's Cry getting a good run through on the inside, and then Hyades, Lou Breton not going on. They come for home. The usual QT is let loose, and the usual QT bursts to the front and electric electrifying turn of foot. What a scintillating display from the Usual QT. The Usual QT and Victor Espinosa, very impressive in the Eddie Read. Victor's Cry second, and then Crowded House and Enriched for third.
You are looking at a brilliant champion and his trainer right now, winning the Eddie Read, the Usual QT for trainer James Cassidy.
Yeah, this was a very good win.
Certainly was. And Victor Espinosa had said all week that this horse is showing the new dimension, the ability to relax and finish his races, whereas he was a little more aggressive last year, and he certainly did. He was switched off early. I mean, he blew this field off their feet, didn't he, Frank?
Yeah, he blew them off, and he did it very easily. He just went Victor. I thought Victor was going to maybe come inside here, but he opted to go outside. Probably didn't want to take the chance of getting stopped with so much horse underneath him. And you see him now coming off the rail. He allowed it. There was plenty of room down on the rail, and that's where Victor's Cry ended up. But when he asked him to run, he really, I haven't seen this horse this good, even though he's won all his races. This is probably the best he's ever been.
Yeah, and coming back from Dubai, I mean, there's always some trepidation about horses coming back and how they're going to respond. And I mean, Victor tapped this horse once. He put this field away in about 3 strides there and just won very, very easy.
You know, looking back at that turning for home, Corey Nakatani had to love what Victor's Cry was doing, screaming on the rail. And as soon as he made move and got by those horses on the lead, he was in the jet wash of the Usual QT.
Yeah.
I mean, the Usual QT is running away from a field that is running in here. They're finishing up. This was not some speed duel where they're staggering. He picks up the pieces. This was an awesome performance by the Usual QT. He goes off at 7-5, finishing second. The 2 Victor's Cry at 5-1, finishing third. The 6 Enriched at 9-2, and the 1 Crowded House runs on late here to be fourth at 13-1. Final time for the mile and eighth, 1:47.1.
Yeah, not a bad final time, and Victor Espinosa getting his first win in the Eddie Read. Let's take another look and watch the Usual QT coming home in very, very good fashion. That's him down on the inside there. As you take a look through our isolated camera, Victor Espinosa looks to the inside. He takes a peek there just to see what sort of horses and what sort of run they have down to the inside.
But you're right. In 3 strides, he's put this field to sleep.
Yep, that was it. It was over. He tapped him 1, 2, 3 times, and he put the whip away. And you can see Jim Cassidy cheering on here. Got to be very, very happy with the Usual QT. And he jumps right to the head of the division out here on the West Coast, and maybe nationally soon as well.
Yeah, no doubt.
He just speaks to the quality of the California breeding program here with the familiar names, sired by Unusual Heat out of a Western fame mare. And look at what he has done in his career, having won the Grade 1 Hollywood Derby and now the Grade 1 Eddie Read.
And Acclamation is by Unusual Heat also.
Yeah, well represented in here across the board. It has gone official here in the Eddie Read. Our first winning favorite that we have seen here in this pick 6 sequence, but what a winner he was. The Usual QT going to return $4.80. And Victor Espinosa, for all the talk about the jockey standings, he got off to the great start here on opening day and has been very consistent each and every day. He's having a great first week.
Yeah, well, he's only been beaten twice on this horse. I was in Dubai and then in the Sunshine Million Classic where it was on the main track. I guess he's only been beaten once on the grass.
Victor Espinosa winning his second Eddie Read. Actually won this race back in 2004 with Special Ring for Julio Canani, but this is a very, very good performance today. And like I said, a horse who's found a new dimension here to relax early and finish very, very strong.
Applause as the Usual QT comes into the winner's circle, and prices are in. The Usual QT going to return $4.80, and by virtue of that huge upset to start the pick 4, the daily double, the first 2 winners in this pick 4 sequence will get you $370.20, and the pick 3 ending here to a 7-5 favorite, $1,409 even on the $1 return. We still have 2 races to go. The schedule is actually a half hour behind because of that delay earlier today with Tyler Bay, so plenty more to come from Del Mar.
I'm joined now by winning owner Michael Nentwig with the Usual QT. Can you put into words what the experience with this horse has been like? He's taken you all over the world into a lot of winner circles.
He's been great. I mean, he's been better than we could have ever hoped for.